Well, how do you do, geographers? Let's talk about rainforest characteristics, shall we? Yes, we shall. Some learning goals for you. First up, you're going to know the characteristics of rainforests. So you're going to know what it takes to be a rainforest. You're going to be able to interpret graphs. So your activity at the end is going to be answering some questions about a graph. Graph interpretation is really important because graphs are everywhere in modern life, and if you don't understand how to work out what they're telling you, very easy for people to pull the wool over your eyes and trick you into thinking all kinds of rubbish. Right. Rainforests. Obviously, they need to have lots of rain. So we're talking about at least 1,300 millimeters of rain. That's 1.3 meters of rain. That's about the height of your average year 7, maybe. And it's usually spread evenly over the year. So rainforests are often found in the tropics, which is in the middle, near the equator, and you don't have very severe seasons in the tropical areas. So it's usually the same weather all year round. Tropical rainforest, two main types of rainforest, three main types: tropical, lowland, tropical, and temperate. And we'll just quickly talk about all three of them. So tropical rainforest, that's got up to 90% of all known life is found in tropical rainforests. It's very humid, so there's lots of moisture in the air. And if the tropical rainforest is more than 1,000 meters above sea level, it's called a montane rainforest, which is a weird word kind of meaning mountain. Lowland tropical forests, they are below 1,000 meters. They're taller and have more fruiting trees, and they're more threatened because they're more accessible. Lowland tropical forests are more threatened by humans than montane rainforests, simply because humans can get to them easier because they're not way up in the mountains. And these tropical forests are found in the tropics, which is the equator. Temperate rainforests, they are found in the temperate zones, and I'm going to show you those zones in a minute. We are getting there. Let's have a real quick look at a map of where rainforests are. Ta-da! There we go. So sort of the 4 main areas of rainforest still left. I mean, you go back 500 years, there'll be a heap more rainforest than this, but we're humans, we love to cut it down. The main areas are Amazon in South America, Congo in Africa, Southeast Asian rainforests, and you got some in Australia as well. There we go. So that's where all the tropical rainforests are, and you'll notice that they're all sort of roughly along this line here. Yeah. Oh, let me get something where you can actually see it. How about that? Yeah, they're all kind of in this line. That's the tropics. It's hot and wet there, and kind of similar weather all year round. Perfect conditions for a rainforest. Yippee! Here's a little infographic about rainforests. There you go. Rainforests used to cover 14% of all land on Earth. Now they only cover 6%. Yep. And there's your 4 main rainforest areas: South America, mostly the Amazon, Africa and the Congo, Southeast Asia, and some in Australia. And we're lucky. Right, the 4 spheres. This is a big concept in geography, so I just wanted to make sure that we know about it. There are 4 spheres, and they are those things there. The biosphere, that's all life. Hydrosphere, that's all water. That's including like the ice at the poles and all that sort of carry on. The lithosphere, that's all of the rock. Come from the Latin word for rock, which is lith. And the atmosphere, that's that thin layer of gases around the outside of Earth, which is where we get all of our air to breathe, and so on. Let's look now. Remember I was telling you about the different zones? I want you to copy this diagram down. So there are 3 zones: temperate zone, tropical zone, and the polar zone. Yep. And how are they divided up? All these lines are imaginary lines that humans use to simplify our way that we think about Earth. So we have what's known as the tropic, the one you would have heard of before is the equator. That's an imaginary line running right around the middle of the Earth. Got the Tropic of Cancer here, it's another imaginary line there. And then the Arctic Circle. Now in between the Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle. This is a temperate zone. Above the Arctic Circle, that's a polar zone. In between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, they're your tropics. That's where most of your rainforests are found, tropical rainforests. And below the Tropic of Capricorn to the Antarctic Circle, this is another temperate zone. That's where you find, and these green bits, that's where you find temperate rainforests, like some of the ones in New Zealand. Yeah. Here are the 4 spheres, as mentioned. Lithosphere, rock; atmosphere, gas; biosphere, life; hydrosphere, water. Right. Now we're going to talk about the layers of the rainforest, and here are the 4 layers. You've got the emergent layer. Well, when you see a rainforest, you see the canopy. This is a thick layer where all the trees are really bunched together and they absorb most of the light. But then you just have a layer above the canopy. A few random trees pop up in this emergent layer. Below the canopy, you've got the understory. Now, the canopy blocks almost all of the light, so there's not a lot of life below that. Most of the life of the animals and stuff in the rainforest live in the canopy layer. You got the understory, which is like smaller trees and stuff, and then you got the forest floor here, which is all just like dead leaves and leopards. So here are some notes on those 4 layers. The emergent layer, remember that's the layer with a few random trees sticking up above the canopy. They get the most sun, and it's the hottest and the windiest up there. There's the canopy itself, which can be about 20 or 30 meters up, and that's where you find 90% of all life in the rainforest. Then below the canopy, you got the understory. Doesn't get much sunlight, and it's just like young trees and stuff. And finally, you got the forest floor. Hardly any sunlight gets down to the forest floor because it's all stopped by the canopy and the understory. There you go. And that forest floor is a thin layer of fallen leaves and branches. Well, yeah. It's activity time. Here's a graph. And I have 5 questions for you about that graph. What could this graph be used for? Who might use that graph? What do these numbers mean? These numbers here. The person who made this graph didn't say, well, you can figure out what these numbers, what they're for, but it doesn't say what the units mean. Like down here, these are obviously years, but it doesn't say years. A really great graph should have an axis label for the vertical and the horizontal axes, but this one doesn't. You're going to describe the pattern of deforestation. So describe this pattern here using language. And finally, how many years saw above 10,000 square kilometers of deforestation? That is a question for you to answer. It's video time. Here's a video from National Geographic. It's called Rainforests 101. Take it away.
Shrouded in a blanket of clouds, they awaken. Their canopies of green glitter in the sun. Their wildlife start to slither, chirp, and growl. And one of the planet's richest ecosystems comes to life. Rainforests are the oldest living ecosystems on the planet. Some can trace their origins to over 70 million years ago, back to a time when dinosaurs still roamed the Earth. While the giant reptiles have disappeared, rainforests continue to thrive, growing on every continent except Antarctica. 2 types of rainforests are scattered across the globe: temperate and tropical. Temperate rainforests are mainly found in the mid-latitudes, often near cooler, coastal, mountainous regions. Tropical rainforests are primarily located in warmer climates between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. As their names imply, temperate and tropical rainforests are the wettest forests on Earth, receiving up to about 33 feet of rain per year. This precipitation plays a critical role in creating an exceptionally lush and biologically diverse habitat. While rainforests only make up about 6% of the Earth's surface area, they are home to over half of the world's plant and animal species. This biodiversity creates benefits that extend far beyond the rainforest boundaries. Rainforest plants produce an assortment of food items, in addition to ingredients useful in everyday products and medicines. In fact, an estimated 70% of the plants used in cancer treatments are only found in rainforests. On an even larger scale, rainforests help to stabilize the planet's climate. Its lush green vegetation regulate global temperatures by absorbing massive amounts of radiation from the sun. They also absorb vast amounts of carbon dioxide and convert them into oxygen, about 40% of the planet's breathable air. Over the past few centuries, rainforests have disappeared at an alarming rate. Factors such as economic inequalities, human development, and demand for natural resources have fueled the deforestation of these rich ecosystems. At the current rate, rainforests, which have survived for over 70 million years, may completely disappear within the next century. But through educational campaigns, sustainable logging practices, and cooperation with local communities, deforestation may begin to slow down, helping preserve rainforests for many generations to come.
Awesome work. All you got to do is a real simple reflection activity. I want you to write the words reflection activity, and then I want you to come up with a real snappy, short headline, if you were a headline writer for a newspaper, that summarizes what today's lesson was about. As always, thank you so much for taking part in today's lesson. Keep it real.